Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Crowdfund Sport webinar with British Cycling. I'm Zoe, and I'm part of the team here at Crowdfunder. Hopefully, by the end of today's workshop, you'll leave know more about crowdfunding and the British Cycling Places to Ride Fund to prepare you to crowdfund for your sports organisation. At the end, you'll be sent a link to the Learn platform, which will show you how to crowdfund, giving you all the tools you need to run a successful sports campaign. Before we get started, there's just a few housekeeping points to go through. We have allowed 30 minutes for this session. It might take a little bit longer than that, but it does just depend on the questions that we have coming in from you guys. If you do want to ask a question, then please type it into the chat box, which will appear on the right of your screen. We will try to make sure we get through as many of those as possible during today's session. We'll have a Q&A at the end where we can catch up on all those questions. We are working from home, so please bear with us if we have any internet issues or unexpected interruptions. If you find that your internet does drop out, just press the refresh button in your browser and you should come straight back into the live room. If you're wondering if we can see you, we can't. Just to let you know that you can obviously see us, but we can't see you guys. So feel free to kind of sit there with your cup of tea. It's absolutely fine. We can't see you. Today, we are going to hear from Amy from British Cycling and also our crowdfunding expert, Kirsty. Towards the end of the webinar, we'll hear from somebody as well who successfully ran a brilliant crowdfunding campaign. We'll put a link to that project into the chat box. We'll find out what worked well for them and what didn't work so well in making their campaign a success. So without further ado, Amy, are you there?
I am. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Yes, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Well, thank you. Amy, could you tell us a little bit more about the Places to Ride Fund, please?
Yes, of course. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Just to give a bit of a background about the fund. So following the Road World Championships in Yorkshire in 2019, £15 million was made available from the government to invest in cycling facilities. So this was named the Places to Ride Fund, and the main priority was about the development of new and improvement of existing cycling facilities. So the programme's being delivered through a partnership with DCMS, Sport England and British Cycling. And the £15 million was split into a number of different pots, such as large-scale projects and smaller-scale projects. Most of that has now been invested, and the main applications to the main fund did close last March. But we have now partnered with Crowdfunder to invest some of the funding in a different way to what you'd probably normally perceive as our normal way of applying for a grant. And this is currently the only facility funding that we have available at the moment. So the main things we want to achieve with the Places to Ride investment is we want to encourage more people from a range of backgrounds to take up cycling in all its forms and provide more opportunities for inclusive, traffic-free cycling.
Amazing.
Sorry. We want to invest. I'll carry on with the further objectives. So we want to invest in opportunities that connect local communities, and we want to ensure that we're delivering a lasting legacy. So creating active environments that provide high quality and affordable opportunities. So I think the Crowdfunder team might go into this in a bit more detail, but we can match fund up to a maximum of £15,000 per project or 50% of your target. So if you've got a target of 20,000, we can match fund up to 10,000. But if you've got a target of 30,000, we can match fund the maximum of £15,000. And there are a number of criteria that you need to meet, which I think the team are going to go through a bit later in terms of the numbers of supporters you need, etc. So we're keen to hear from you if you're from a community group, a club, a charity, a parish council, a CIC, anyone really that has a great cycling idea for community-based cycling. And to date, we've supported BMX clubs, Friends of Parks, small charities, CICs. It's quite a broad range of organisations that we've supported. Have a look at our eligibility criteria before you apply as well, because the fund doesn't allow us to support just project development costs. It must be attributed to capital costs such as the build of a facility or purchase of equipment. Your application will be assessed by a panel from British Cycling and Sport England. So just be really specific on what the funding will cover, your timelines for the project, how you're going to deliver it, just to give the panel as much information as possible to make an assessment on whether we can give you the funding or not. And then if you've got any designs of, if you building a new pump track, for example, if you've got designs, please share those with us as well. So that's probably enough. I'll stop talking now and hand back to the team, and please just pop any questions in the chat bar if you've got anything for me later on.
Thank you. Sorry, I completely cut you off earlier. I was going to go on to ask what type of projects you were looking for, but you absolutely covered all of that. So thank you so much.
No problem.
If you wouldn't mind, Amy, coming back towards the end of the webinar, and hopefully we will have some questions for you. Is that okay?
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, so next up, we're going to hear from Kirsty. She's going to tell you more about crowdfunding for sport. So Kirsty, are you here?
I am indeed. Here I am.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kirsty.
Zoe. Okay, yeah. So you're here to find out basically what crowdfunding is, how it works. Well, crowdfunding is really just a great way to engage with your community at the same time as raising the funds. And it works really quite simply. So you add your idea to our crowdfunder platform. You'll create a page. It'll be a unique page which will have a unique link to it, which you'll then go on to promote, get the word out about it. You're going to share it with your community and the wider community as well. So if you are part of a club or an organisation, then try to avoid just going out to that community and go to people who have maybe are not members already, but are aware of you and want to support you, and then you get funded through pledges and donations to your page, and then you get the money to spend on your project. So one of the biggest things you have to do first of all is create what we call a network map, and that's all about identifying your crowd. So sit down, think about who is connected to, who you're already connected with, who you would like to connect with. So particularly obviously with a cycling focus, there's cyclists, active cyclists, potential cyclists you want to get involved within the community, particularly with, there's increasing accessibility to cycling paths and such like right across the UK. So tapping into that and creating awareness around that in your area. It may be that you're working on creating a safer route to school. So obviously you want to again engage with those schools and the students and telling them all about the benefits that cycling to school can bring. Think of everybody's personal network, and say everybody that's connected to your crowdfunder, so that your team that you're working with, your own personal network, and making sure they're tapping into them as well. So their friends and family, work colleagues, any affiliated partners that you work with, other organisations that are also looking with the same focus as yourselves, and make sure they know that you're crowdfunding and that you can tap into their networks to promote it as well. So potentially you may not have already a well-established network. If that's the situation, then think about whose network you can tap into and contact those people and get them committed to sharing your project with their own audience. So that might fall into the local residents group and also local businesses. So local residents, make sure you're making people aware of the benefits of your project. So for example, it's going to be safer to cycle, you're improving accessibility, and local businesses as well. So obviously if they're on the cycle path and you're encouraging more activity that way, then potential customers are going to be there for them, and an increase in customers. So it can be worth highlighting that to them and get them involved in promoting your project, but potentially also providing rewards, which I'll come on to in a second. So in the planning stages as well, you're also going to be creating what we want to be an attractive and appealing crowdfunder page. So it's going to look something like this one on the right-hand side. We would recommend creating a video if you can. 1 to 2 minutes is plenty. And that really is telling people the story of your project in a nutshell. So people are very short on time these days. So if you can give them a video to watch, which essentially tells them what they need to know before deciding whether to pledge on your project, then that all the better. You're going to reach an even wider audience doing it that way. And it's a good opportunity to connect with the crowd and show them who's behind the project. People like to see people as well. So that's always highly recommended. Then I would suggest when you come to writing the content of your page, the main headlines are who you are, what the project's all about and why it's so important and how the money is going to be spent. And then obviously, cover off the benefits to that, to the community that you're going to bring as well. So use these bold headlines, which you can see there as an example. You've got the aim of the project and why does this matter. So you've got lots of tools on the page to be able to do that, to make these bold headings. You want some really engaging images to break up the text as well. Think about yourself reading a page. It can switch you off really sometimes if you've just got a big block of text. So you want that to be broken up with some nice images of the location, of the people involved, and the activities that are taking place. The video I've mentioned, 1 to 2 minutes, and then also some tempting rewards. So let's talk about offering rewards. Rewards-based crowdfunding, it just is a next step up from the traditional fundraising, which is donations only. And rewards is an opportunity for you to offer something in return for that financial contribution from your supporters. And you can get creative with rewards. So yes, things like cycling lessons or cycling equipment that you can maybe get your hands on and offer as a reward, maybe at a discounted price. They're all really good at attracting your closer community, the cycling common interest community, but also go out to local businesses and see what they can offer you for that wider audience who may not necessarily want to jump on a bike, but they know the value of it and they want to support you. So we've got things like there, the £20 reward for pizza. And a signed Peaky Blinders skate deck, for example, on the left-hand side. So get creative, think, right, what can I have and what can I get my hands on that would appeal to every segment of my crowd. It's really important then to connect with your community. Use social media and find out your local Facebook groups. You can just do a search with keywords in Facebook and click onto the groups function, and that will list things. So just put in keywords in, cycling groups and other environmental groups, potentially, anything that you think might be connected to the topic of your project. Spread the word by referring back to your network map. So that's the identifying your crowd step that you did right at the start. Keep referring back to that as a working document and make sure you've contacted everybody that you originally listed, and even add to it as you go through. As you start talking to people, someone might tell you, oh, so-and-so might be interested in that. I would get in touch with them. So add them to your network map and get in touch. And then you can multiply your crowdfunder. So we have a really good function called multiplier, which is, sorry, I thought I had a slide for that specifically, but I don't. Now, the multiplier function allows individual fundraisers to raise money on behalf of the main project. So you would create your page, your main project page, and then individual fundraisers can have their own pages, which they're then sharing with their personal network. And it can work really well for a bit of friendly competition amongst your fundraisers. See who can raise the most, or not, maybe not focusing on the money and just seeing who can maybe cycle the furthest and get a little marathon going, or a relay cycle, something like that. Bring a bit of fun into it and really let your supporters and your fundraisers have a direct impact on the amount of money that you're raising. And you'll see on there just a little screenshot of a mocked up poster. Posters and flyers, the traditional sense of communicating and engaging with the community still work as well. And you'll be provided with a QR code for your project page once you go live as well. We provide that for you. So just a little bit, really, Amy's covered off most of this, but just to go over it again. So there's up to £15,000 available per project. It's a maximum of 50% of your initial target that's available. And the key thing in applying for the funding is that you need to get your page, your crowdfunding page, ready to a stage where you think it's good enough to actually go live, and then apply for the funding, which is via your project dashboard. So as Amy mentioned, the panel will actually review your page and make sure it's providing enough information, then they think it's going to be a successful crowdfunder. You're telling the story well of your project, and they'll give you some feedback on that. And they may ask you some questions equally in assessing your application, considering whether they're going to pledge or not. So once you've been offered that pledge, you'll know up front how much they're going to pledge to you, and also depending on your initial target level, you'll have a different number of required supporters. So you'll go live, you'll start crowdfunding, you need to reach 25% of your initial target and the minimum number of required supporters, which you can see in the table below is tiered according to your target. Once you hit those two conditions, the pledge will appear on your page, and that gives a really great boost to your target. It appears and goes towards your target. So people can see you're well on the way to achieving your target, and that money is going to be available from British Cycling, provided you hit then the next milestone of achieving 100% of your initial target, at which point that pledge is secured. And then you can go on and keep crowdfunding if you still have some time left and go into your stretch target. If you don't reach 100%, then the pledge will go off your page. But provided you've gone the keep what you've raised route for funding, you'll keep what you've raised from the crowd. Now, I've covered quite a bit in there. There's more to learn. So what we would definitely recommend is popping onto our free online learning course for sports projects. That will talk you through even more tips and guidance, show you, as you can hear, how to create the perfect page. It will give you lots of guidance on how to run your crowdfunder as well. So definitely go onto the online learning and complete the modules on there. And that will set you up perfectly for creating a really great crowdfunder. I'm going to hand back to Zoe now.
Hi, Kirsty. Thank you. Very informative, as always. Will you join us at the end for a Q&A as well? Hopefully we'll have some questions come through about crowdfunding.
I will.
Thank you very much. So next, if we can please welcome Nicole, who's just recently crowdfunded. How are you today?
Yes, good, thank you. How are you? Brilliant,
thank you. I'm just going to share a little a link to your project just in the chat box here. Won't be 1 second. So everyone can go and have a little look at that. Let me just see. Have we got? There we go. Let's have a little look. So you recently crowdfunded, didn't you? You've actually kind of only just closed, really, after a really successful campaign. So you guys managed to raise, as it stands at the moment, it's just over £70,000. And then you've also got the gift aid on top of that, haven't you? But that's from 137 supporters, which is loads, and that's amazing. If you could tell us a little bit more about your project, please, Nicole.
Yeah, definitely. I think just firstly, we're so blown away by all of the support that we've received from the community and all of our supporters. So Step Up is, we're a place-based giving charity, and we support community-led projects across East Manchester. We set up in 2019 with the aim to bring people together from within the community and make the most of our combined resources, energy and skills for the benefit of local people. Our aim, quite simply, is to promote local giving, connecting with those that want to give with community projects that are seeking that support. And giving can really just take any form, whether it's time, funding, resources, space or expertise, really to grow those local projects. And our latest crowdfunder campaign with Max Tracks has been to support a local community-led cycle track in Openshaw in East Manchester. So we met Kerry back in 2019. It was one of the first projects that we picked up to support, and we're just blown away, really, really inspired by Kerry and the whole community, really. So Kerry really tragically lost a little boy back in 2017 in a really awful accident, and he was only 4 years old, and she really wanted to give something back to the community after Max's funeral, when people were sort of giving her lots of donations, and rather than sort of giving it to a charity that sort of wouldn't put that back into the community, she was really set on having a legacy for Max, and having something that would support support people Max's age, that she could watch sort of grow up and enjoy Max's legacy, really. So I guess with Max Tracks, they've just been absolutely incredible. The community's really pulled together to bring this project to life, but it sort of came to a bit of a stumbling block where they've done all of the fundraising that they can really do in the local community. There's so many people on board with it, and really want to see this project happen for Max, but I think they were just really looking for the next step and sort of how to elevate their fundraising efforts. So Step Up look to support them with that fundraising assistance, and I guess as well as fundraising assistance, we can offer promotion, connections to groups, partners and businesses to help grow their ideas, and offer development support as well. So it felt like it was a really good fit, and yeah, this has just been a really fantastic first crowdfunder for us. We're just so pleased.
It's so good to hear, and all of the kind of, it's such an amazing project, and it's incredible that something like this is going to leave such a wonderful legacy in the area. But you get such a feel looking at the page, and hopefully everyone will go and have a little look at it, about the community involvement and how so many people are backing it. And it's a lovely narrative throughout the whole page, and I think you've all done really, really well at getting that story across in such an engaging way. Why did you decide to crowdfund? You touched on it a little bit there. Had kind of Max Tracks looked at other avenues for funding, or was it just something that you thought, as this is a really community-based project, this would be the way to go?
So like I said before, place-based giving is all about sort of harnessing the power of people in the community, and really just looking at what people have to give. That doesn't necessarily have to be funding, but can people give their time to maybe do a sponsored run or do a bake sale that could go on to a crowdfunder reward? So for us, crowdfunder just felt like a no-brainer. We actually have a community project budget, and I think, yeah, rather than just saying we've got this allocated budget for community projects each year, we really wanted to look at how we could invest that in the best way and make the most of what everybody else had to give. So East Manchester is an area with a lot of regeneration. There were a lot of businesses coming into this area that have social value commitments, that they want to give something back to the local community and maybe don't have a mechanism to do that. So I think Step Up really is sort of that connection between anybody that wants to give back and to these local projects. And we're constantly hearing from people like Kerry, who are saying, you know, we're at a stumbling block now. We're really looking for the missing piece of that jigsaw to bring our project to life. And yeah, I guess because of that, crowdfunder just felt like a really good way forward, so that we could say we're gonna match fund £20,000 of community donations to help them reach that target of £40,000. So every time somebody pledges £1, Step Up will put another £1 onto that. But then also working with those local businesses to say, well, if you want to give something back, there's this fantastic local project that you can pledge onto. How can you get involved in other ways? Are there maybe crowdfunder rewards that you could offer? Other funders in the area as well that have small pots of funding, you know, can you put some funding into this amazing project, and we'll match fund it? I guess really just it just feels like a no-brainer, like I've said a couple of times, and really is just such a nice way to corral people in the community, to make people feel excited, and just to see that total rising constantly is such a big boost for the group as well.
It's such validation, isn't it, to know that kind of your crowd and your community are behind you as a project owner. And I think that really nicely echoes what Kirsty was talking about earlier, about not only kind of raising awareness of your potential campaign or project, but there are also, and this would be relevant for project owners that are here today, there are other benefits to crowdfunding, not just the kind of financial reward. So whether that's engaging with those businesses, or, you know, creating advocates for your campaign or for your project. And also there are lots that people can do for you, as you said, you know, skill sharing resources, making donations of rewards to a campaign as opposed to just that pure monetary kind of injection from the local community. So it's worth really reaching out and broadening in your network, because there are a lot of people that can help you in lots of different ways, not just necessarily donations. So that's really great that was the case with Max Tracks. What did you find, if anything, difficult about crowdfunding?
I think other than the uncertainty of whether you're going to have a successful campaign once you hit go live, it really is such a gamble. I think when we set the target of 40,000, we were just like, this feels so far away from what we're capable of achieving, and we've sort of smashed that really. I would say that once that campaign does go live, it's running around the clock, and that takes a huge amount of manpower, and it comes back to what we were saying about the amount of time it takes to run a successful campaign, and how can you bring people on board, how can you get people excited about it and want to give their time and want to give their skills to make it successful. Max Tracks have just had such an amazing team of local volunteers around them. So the Delamere Park, where they're looking to build the cycle track, it's sort of in the middle of a housing estate. It's sort of a kind of square-shaped park with lots of houses around. And I don't think there's any one person that lives in one of the houses around the park that isn't involved in this in some way. So the kind of main volunteer social media managers, if you like, are maybe mums that are on maternity leave, or people who have some spare time to give because they work part-time or are maybe looking for work. So I think it's just such a lovely way for people to gain new skills as well. It's just been really nice. So I would say while sort of the manpower is one of the most difficult things about running the campaign, it's really worth the gamble.
Really rewarding, isn't it, as well?
Absolutely.
We always recommend with anybody thinking of crowdfunding to try and get a team of people around you, and whether that's colleagues, volunteers, friends, family, just so you're not taking it all on yourself, because it is quite a lot, as you said. And if people click onto that Learn platform, one of the things that we talk about quite a lot there is the planning element, and how it should really take kind of the same amount of time planning as it does running, and that can be kind of 4 to 5 weeks. So within that planning kind of time frame, making sure that you've got that solid plan of promotion and engagement for while you're live, because it's difficult to be reactive in that time. You want to almost have that plan in place. And then we have the tools, don't we, like the dashboard as well. People can actually see in real time what's happening with their crowdfunder. So that's always good to be able to have a plan in place to react to that as well, where the money's coming from, or whether, your social media post worked that day or not. So there's lots of tools out there, but it's definitely worth bearing in mind kind of the commitment and the time element, definitely. What did you find worked best? Would you say that was that kind of corral of the local community, being able to get behind the project and kind of push it forward, or was there something in particular that stood out?
I think that's a massive element of it, having people that, you can rely on every single day really to be posting updates, thanking donors, sourcing rewards, holding online raffles, organising events and supporting people that are fundraising for you. It all takes so much time and energy, and really coming back to what you were saying about promoting the campaign and planning timing, considering key milestones. So Max's birthday happened during our campaign, and I think that was the day that we received the most donations, just because it really sort of pulled on people's heartstrings. I think maybe what worked the best, other than the planning and the promotion, was the crowdfunder extras. We were able to fundraise an additional £35,000 off the back of the crowdfunder extras from British Cycling, Sport England and Power to Change. And that was just a real game changer for us in reaching the target. I think what worked the best as well is contacting local press. If you've got a campaign that is really exciting and a lot of people in the community are getting behind, that can really raise the profile of your campaign. And with Max Tracks, we were on ITV News last week. We've been shared in countless national, local and for some reason international newspapers. So it's just been really overwhelming, but definitely worth sort of reaching out to local press to see if they're interested in sharing.
Yeah, that's a really good hint, actually. And I think people get a little bit almost wary of reaching out to local press, but actually at a local level, you know, press and media are always looking for that kind of community, you know, interest focus. So they're more than likely will put something in their kind of media, if not on their socials. But definitely bear in mind that that's something you kind of want to be thinking about contacting those people quite early on in the campaign. But realistically, you want to be going to them with a kind of a success story. So you don't want them to kind of necessarily be kind of printing something too early on, but at the same time you want to have that in mind, don't you? You want to have that kind of potentially in mind as somebody to reach out to, because you don't know where that might lead. If it's of interest to the person, you know, at the newspaper or the media outlet, they may well push that really quite hard. So that's amazing. We can't actually, if people go onto the project, they can't actually see the rewards at the moment, because you guys have opted for the always on function, which again is something that we talk through on the website. So that actually removes the rewards. But would you be able to talk through just some of the rewards that you sourced and how you went about sourcing those?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the biggest reward that we had on there was 2 e-bikes that we received as an in-kind donation from a local. There are solicitors that specialises in 2-wheel claims, so sort of bike, scooter, anything that's not a car really. So they were just so keen to support Max Tracks in any way that they could. They ran their own crowdfunder for us at the start of last year and climbed Snowdon, and then donated these e-bikes as well, so that we could make some money off of them, which was really nice of them. I think they also donated lots of bike helmets and children's bikes and things as well, that we've raffled off separately. So I think finding a business or finding some sort of local reward that is relevant to your project, and also just speaking to local businesses, speaking to supporters and seeing what they can do for you. There's a lady in the community who has her own cake making business, so she was making Christmas cakes for people. Kerry has a good relationship with Fairshare, and Fairshare donated like 10-foot Christmas trees or something, so she raffled those off for £100. I think just weird and wonderful gifts that you get. What can you do with them? I'm making the most of that. I think she was raffling off things like sausage hampers around Christmas time.
But I bet they went really well. We sometimes get project owners who are so surprised about what rewards worked well, and I think there's that, especially with sports organisations, that there's that tendency to think kind of club focused or sports focused, whereas actually the wider community, especially because it ran over Christmas time, that's perfect with the Christmas trees and, you know, Christmas cakes and things. That's not at all sport focused, but I'm sure that they would have sold really, really well. So that's really good advice. Just contact people, speak to supporters, speak to businesses and see what they're happy to donate. That's
it got
brilliant.
to the point as well where businesses were contacting Kerry to ask if they could give, just because they'd seen what she was doing. So there was a local cocktail bar had said, we'll make a cocktail under Max's name, and all of the profits from the cocktail will go towards the crowdfunder, which is also really nice.
Lovely. That's so nice. It's such a wonderful kind of community up there, isn't it? It just seems like everybody's got behind it, which is incredible. Would you consider something we talked about kind of off camera, but you did mention you're going to, so considering crowdfunding again? And if so, what kind of lessons have you learned? What would be your takeaway advice to anybody that's starting for the first time, maybe?
Yes, so our next crowdfunder campaign is for a local community health and wellbeing hub. So we're going to help them to fundraise for a centre manager, just while they're looking to cover some of their core costs. I think just really, really emphasising the power of communities, making sure that they're constantly sharing stuff on social media, again, contacting the local press, really just a lot of things that we've already mentioned. And yeah, sourcing relevant campaigns. So they do lots of yoga and wellbeing classes at the centre. So, could we get some yoga mats to give us rewards? Could we offer free yoga sessions if people pledge a certain amount? Really just drawing on the skills and the resources that we've got available to us as well. That we know that there's local partners in the area that want to give to projects like this. So could we approach them and say, we're match funding every pound up to £10,000. Are you willing to put something in as well? I think just making sure to draw upon all of the resources and all of the local giving available to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nicole, for coming along today. Would you mind staying on screen for a few minutes, and we'll bring the others back, if we can bring Amy and Kirsty back, and see if we've had any questions come in about your project or British Cycling, or of course crowdfunding. I'll just have a quick look. I don't know, Kirsty, if you've been checking in the chat box.
Yeah, I've popped them into the Q&A section there.
Wonderful. Oh, perfect.
You'll see them. There's only two.
There's only a few. So we've got a question here from Nigel. Would a project to engage older people using e-bikes, legal in brackets, be supported?
Yes, it would be. We just need to understand a bit more about the project, where the bikes would be being used, because ideally we look to fund projects that are in traffic-free locations. But yeah, it certainly sounds like that is an eligible project.
Wonderful, thank you. And this is coming from Gavin. Is there a closing date to apply for the Places to Ride Fund? Apologies if this was covered, rest of them know he missed the beginning, but I don't think we did talk about kind of closing dates or anything, did we?
No, so at the moment there isn't a deadline. So we have just put we're due to put a little bit of extra funding into the pot, because it's just been so successful and really reached projects that we haven't been able to reach through the more traditional sort of way of applying for funding. So as of yet, there's no deadline, but once the money is gone, it's gone. So I would encourage that if you are planning to do something, once you've planned it all out and done everything you need to do, just do get it live, because I can't imagine the funding will still be available in, say, 6 months' time.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. As we don't have any more questions just at the moment, I'm just going to share into the chat box. There's a few links here just for additional resources. So we've got the Help Centre, which has got loads and loads of answers for project owners, supporters. If you just go and have a look at there, if you've got any kind of outstanding questions that we might not have covered that are kind of crowdfunding related. Social Media Hub, which has got loads of different resources, and also there's a link there to future drop-in sessions as well. So we do actually run a Q&A drop-in every week. So if people think of a question after this webinar, they're more than welcome to come along and ask one of us in those sessions as well. Just give it a few more minutes to see if we have any other questions coming in. We have run over the half hour, but we will give it a few more moments. Okay, this is from Nigel. He missed the beginning. So just wondering, does the project start with a crowdfunding process to engage match funding? So that's
yes.
A yes.
I think what you're asking is how do you actually get
match access the match funding?
So if you go to crowdfunder.co.uk, you'll see a button for sports where it's just essentially start crowdfunding. You need to register all your details. You could potentially just double check your eligibility first on the one of the links from the chat box. There's the one specifically to the British Cycling Fund, and there's one generically to the extra funding page, and then you can look at all the extra funding. So check that first. If you think you're going to be eligible, start creating your page and do the online learning course. That will walk you through how to create your page. Create it so that it's at a stage where you would be happy for it to go live, but don't go live. Go to your project dashboard, hit the apply for funding. You should have it flagged up on your dashboard if you've clicked to allow to share your details with our partners. That then goes through to the British Cycling team, who will review your application and your page, and then from there on, it's just following the steps to going live.
Brilliant. I'm just going to share again the Learn platform just into the chat box for those of you that might have missed it at the beginning. That link is, if you click on that, that will take you straight to our Learn platform specifically for sports. So it's a real kind of step-by-step, really user-friendly. It will walk you through all the different stages of planning and creating and then running your crowdfunder. So that's absolutely kind of the next place to go to for you guys that have come along today that are hoping to crowdfund. I think if that's everybody's questions, I think we should wrap it up for the day. Thank you very much to Amy and Nicole and Kirsty for joining me today and talking us through obviously crowdfunding, that wonderful project, and also British Cycling Fund as well. And hopefully that's given you all some food for thought to start crowdfunding. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.